What's up? And thank you for checking out the Hospitality Strategy Lab. My name is Jason Littrell. I'm here with Chef Franck Desplechin from Incrementum Hospitality. Chef, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Jason. Appreciate the time and appreciate the opportunity.
Oh, no problem. So tell me about your business.
Business Incrementum. I've been in hospitality now for 26 years and counting. And I've been a former chef, pastry chef, director of food and beverage. I stayed within the Michelin-starred rated segment and luxury segment market. So that's kind of all I know. And back in 2020, I built my company of consulting. And 2023, post-COVID, I've decided to go full-time entrepreneurship. And so now I offer a variety, and it's a multifaceted company when I provide interim support with task force professional that goes into hotels and resort to help them during a time of transition. I've also helped with underperforming operation concept developments related to culinary, front of the house, back of the house, and then we're doing also audits and quality assessments, kind of incognito mystery audits that goes into places, provide you a report, and help you provide the training that you need in order to get to up to par and where to the level of service that you would expect.
Is that like mystery shopping?
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, for
Okay.
hotels, resorts, and restaurants.
Okay. I got a million questions for you now. Okay. So you came up in the world of ultra high end,
Yes,
ultra high end chefing, and you were
that
in
is correct.
that is like a boiler room. I heard that my understanding of this is that like the only greater anxiety in trying to play in that universe is trying to maintain that universe.
That wow, that I could not have said it better. Yes, that is exactly that. You just you're being conditioned and wired to think that the perfection is attainable, and you just believe it daily, and you go after it daily, and you get as close as you can daily, and you end up never necessarily reaching it. But this is the conditionment.
Hmm.
So yeah, there's a lot of pressure, a lot of stress, a lot of anxiety, but it's almost like you need it in order to thrive. You kind of seeking out that pressure. If there's no pressure, then it's hard for you to get into a mindset when you have to take it seriously. It's just very, very controversial, but it is definitely the world of excellence when you seek out the impossible technically.
Is this the kind of thing that you try to apply for your clients?
I yeah, yes and no. I think I kind of stepped back a little bit from that mindset. I do now able to offer a level of skills, knowledge, and expertise that allow me to, I would say, to be an authority on the field. I would say so. I think I just like to provide expertise. After, if someone is not necessarily, if my expertise does not resonate with someone, then that's fine. So I don't necessarily backtrack from. For what's out there. But I think people, when they reach out to me and want to engage with me or my company, they are seeking that level of expertise.
Hmm. What kind of problems do you typically see? What do people complain about when they call you?
I think this is a twofold answer. There is the problems that they think they have, and there's the problem that I notice they have. So the one that they think they have, they're the first priority. They hired me for a purpose. Therefore, I'm going to try to help them fixing those issues. And those issues can be anywhere from as simple as I have got a food cost problem in my restaurant. How where to look? What is it that I'm missing? Or you're gonna have restaurants that don't necessarily have a level of clientele that they wish to have. The revenue is not there. Is it a money problem? Is it an execution problem? Are you overstaffed? Are you understaffed? Do you have the right leader? Do you have the proper marketing initiative in place in order to cater to your audience? So all of those things, I'm taking a full-on assessment. At the beginning, I provide a kind of a report through an hour and a half conversation, and I just tell them this is what I'm noticing. This is systemic issues. This is what I believe there's an opportunity, and this is the 5 things you told me to focus on, and this is my take on this. And so, based on that, more often than not, they end up taking the full package because they realize the knowledge that I provided them within. Usually, it's a 24, 36-hour stay if it's in an hotel, or if it's just like a full day in a restaurant, it's going to be a lunch service and a dinner service. And then at that point, you just provide them with enough knowledge to realize and say, okay, the guy knows what he's talking about. The guy also noticed what's wrong, and I need his help to help me to bring it. Now, those are the problems that they're bringing to me. The one that I'm seeing now recently over the past year and a half, 2 years, is a leadership component. I think we have amazing leaders, but I don't think they have been mentored, coached in order to get to the level of expectation that you would want in someone that has that level of title or that level of compensation. I think we just lacking the depth of leadership knowledge that you would expect at a certain level. And so I've certified myself to be a coach, speaker, and trainer from the John Maxwell certification program back in 2019. And so I have an ability to be able to see the gap of leadership there is within a team. Is your team does not respond well to the leader? Is the leader has a culture-driven leadership? Is it more performance-driven leadership? Is he leading by fear or is he leading by respect? So all kind of things that are just able to articulate and provide a level of education, I guess, and observation that most people find valuable.
Okay. I mean, basic question. Okay. So like people, they call you when they're struggling, or at what stage would you ideally enter into a consulting relationship?
I have been going, most likely, I do being called oftentimes when there's a struggle and they don't know how to fix it. That's one. The
What are the
second
indicators
is,
of that struggle? Like what are
um,
the indications? How do you
I,
know
I would
where the struggle
say
is?
I would say usually it would be if it's an hotel or resort, it would be underperforming. When I say underperforming, is usually I receive the call from the up above property or the general manager, and they oftentimes 9 times out of 10 they're just looking at the P&L and the numbers. They say, okay, we have a struggle, there is an issue, or guests are not coming into the restaurant, or I'm not happy with the chef right now. I'm going to bring this guy that's going to make an assessment of the chef. So as soon as there is some kind of a feeling of this doesn't seems right, that where I would come into play. Now, the other part of when I'm being brought on is if someone goes into a massive renovation. Let's say there's a $50 million renovation with a full repositioning of the food and beverage offering. They will bring an expert on site in order to provide the guidance and expertise to know how do we bring this to life. We have 6 months before we open. What steps are we going to tackle on month 6, months 5, months 4, months 3, months 2, months 1 until the opening? How do we gear up in order to get there? Most of the time it takes a level of opening expertise that not everyone has. And so that's some of the reason why we could be called on.
Hmm. Is that like a kind of critical path where you're like,
Absolutely.
here's the origin, here's the destination, here are the steps in between?
That is correct. That is the right word. The critical path of 30, 60, 90 days usually, and you just have you're doing a SWOT analysis, and you go just kind of going over your strengths and weaknesses and of your operation. You provide a plan, and then once you establish that plan, you're doing technically the word that I'm looking for is you're doing a 30, 60, 90 critical pass, and you provide the measurable improvement, and then you're having your weekly calls, and you just kind of have a level of progress slash accountability in order to keep everyone honest.
Hmm. All right, tell me about the mystery shopping part. I think that this is one of the most underrated things that people can do quite simply, but they
Yes,
just never do it.
absolutely. Yeah, so the it's very simple. My wife started it. She's from hospitality as well, and she's from the rooms division, and when I was from the food and beverage. So we've been doing it with mostly hotels and resorts. When we're being asked to come, would you be able to do an actual audit, which would be kind of Forbes, or it would be a small leading hotel of the world, or LQA, or you're going to have AAA, that all those audits that exist out there. We're going to go there. And the good thing is we go there as a family. So we bring the kids. So nobody has ever any idea that we actually auditors, because we're coming as a whole family most of the time, if that's where to happen.
Well,
Otherwise,
I mean, you're on
yes,
the
go ahead.
Hospitality Strategy Lab podcast now, so you're going to be like super famous overnight. So now everybody's going to know who you are. So
Here you
sorry.
go. Here you
Yeah.
go. But yes, so it's so you go into an hotel and you kind of assessing with all the standards that you're supposed to hit from the arrival experience. So first, you're making it start from the time you actually call to make the reservation. You call to make the reservation at the hotel. Are they giving you everything that you need to know about it? They're asking you all the question. You want to make reservation, and then you go through this process. You arrive on property, then the arrival experience from the valet all the way to the front desk. Then after you're gonna have the orientation in your room, and then you make reservation in the restaurants. You're getting a room service during your stay. If there is a spa, you're getting a spa treatment. Usually, that's obviously for my wife. She would do a spa treatment, and all of this is being compiled into one full report, and we'll give you a score. That score after that will be shared with the head of the hotel, and then that you go into phase two. Phase two is, if you decide to go with it, is would you want us to provide that assessment to your entire executive committee team? And so you go there and you just kind of share your findings throughout the stay with pictures, everything, and you can go to a phase three. That phase three will be: would you want us to provide a critical pass based on these findings in order for you to work? And we can come back in 6 months from now doing another stay, which most of the time they don't even remember us at all.
Hmm.
Never knew that was us that we were there. And so you provide that critical pass, and you can choose to go even further when once we've done two stay and we realize that the property has not necessarily progressed as fast or as good as they wanted to. Then at that point, we're not incognito anymore. Let's welcome me and my wife to the property, and let's do the actual training of the staff based on these findings. And then after that, you move on. So it's just you can go a little bit further down the road on what it is, but it's proven to be successful. It's worked very well, and we just want more of those because I think it's very helpful, and it's a fraction of the price for what you would expect from a Forbes audit.
um, what is LQA and what is AAA? I don't know what those things
So
are.
AAA, it's coming from the group that provide the insurance, AAA. So they
Yeah.
have audits when you stay into hotels, and so they have certain standards that they need to hit. You're gonna have also American Express that's gonna become the Fines Hotels and Resort. So in order to be part of them and providing them the vacay, so all of those third party have their own internal audits, and we have received them throughout our career. Between me and my wife, we received them consistently in every hotel we ever worked. So we're very, very familiar with the standard. So we're able to provide you a level of clarity and transparency onto what they look for to get you ready for the actual audit when they were to happen.
Okay. I mean, that sounds like an external thing. What about internal things? Do you ever survey the staff and find out what their sentiment is? Like, do they like working there? Are they as committed as you would like them to be? What kind of things
We,
are you finding with that?
I would say I don't necessarily do that as part of a service we provide, but when I do my coaching and they ask me to immerse myself into the operation to find out some of the issues they have, that is an approach that I definitely personally take. I will always, you'll find out that 90% of the time, the staff has the answer of what the problem is.
Mm.
It's just that you have a leadership that doesn't like to be called out, doesn't like the feedback. You realize they say, "Oh, we don't have the tools to do our job." I say, "Okay, well, let's buy the tools then." That's super simple. It's action consequences. So it's so you find out those things, and you will realize that some of the staff or the leadership they're just not. Either you have a staff that it's kind of the inmate running the asylum. The leadership has no power over anything, or you have a leadership that is just very dismissive of the day-to-day operation. They don't know what's happening. They're just here to monitor and manage, but they're not here to actually move the needle. So,
There's
yeah,
a couple of interesting things at play here. So you primarily serve bars and restaurants at very high levels, typically embedded in hotels and resorts, right?
yes,
A
that is correct.
lot of management deals,
Yes,
right?
absolutely.
Where the hotel is the landlord, and then they have some sort of revenue split. Do you ever encounter unions?
I do encounter unions, but again, it's I've worked under unions when I was in San Francisco. I know how it works. Obviously, every collective bargaining agreement is different, but the navigating them, you will realize that when they bring someone from the outside in order to fix some of the systemic issues in the property, the staff is usually very welcome. They're not
Hmm.
the resistant one. The
That has not
leadership
been my experience.
the leadership one is usually the one that are a little bit more resistant because they're going to be exposed.
Yeah, that's interesting. Um, all right, just going back to the mystery shopping thing. What are the indicators that you look for? What are the things that you feel are the most important indicators for a positive or negative guest experience?
I think there is the internal standard, which is what are they expecting from that bar, from that lounge, from that restaurant, based on the standard that they have. Let's if it's a, I don't know, if it's an upscale French dining restaurant, if it's a three-meal restaurant, if it's breakfast, if it's a bar that is supposed to be fancy with a great collection of whiskeys and spirits. So it really depends of the internal standard that they have. I will apply those standards and look for those standards. Now, the second part is I'm also a TEEPS trainer certified, which is the you're probably very familiar with, which is the responsible alcohol beverage service, and I'm certified as a trainer. Therefore, there's going to go also the legal illegal part of this. Is there underage serving? Is there is how do they cater for someone that would be qualified as already intoxicated? So all of those things is also an expertise that I can provide within the same report in order to say you have an actual issue here that could be a huge liability for you. So those two aspects are usually provided when I do bars or restaurants.
Okay, tell me about your ideal customer.
Ideal customer. We I got into a point when the reality is the ideal customer is someone that is actually willing to invest into a third party consulting company to help them. And when I say invest, it's investing emotionally, physically, and financially. It is the reality is nobody ever budget to hire a consulting company. Nobody. You just don't create your budget for next year based on, oh, next year we're gonna suck. Let's put some money there. Like nobody does that. So there's the ideal customer is someone that realized they have an issue, that it got out of control, that it's out of their hands, and they need expertise. I felt many times when I got into a place and they say, okay, Franck, we want some help. I provide them the help. I give them the assessment. And once the assessment comes in, I'd said, okay, this is some of the issue you noticed. I actually agree with them. This is some of the issue I noticed. Would you want to work together? They say, yes, that's of course. I'm doing my proposal and suddenly they ghost you. It's like they don't even tell you, Frank, this is too expensive. Can we work on the price? Whatever it is, it's just something that's most of the time I'm being ghosted, which is kind of a waste of everybody's time. But it is the name. It is the name of the game. That's how it works.
That's how it works.
On the other hand, and this is probably the reason why my expertise from the luxury environment, luxury segments, I'm not going to say they have a lot more money. A budget is budget. But they're definitely a little bit more sensitive to their image and to the execution of what they're trying to achieve. They're
Mm-hmm.
willing, when they approach you and they're willing to invest for you to come here, they're going to take it as seriously as I'm going to be taking it seriously. And so usually I would say they're going to be my ideal customer because they're not afraid of the investment across the board in order to get it right. They just have the same goal, which let's fix it, let's get it right. And my purpose is make sure that I'm trying to make myself irrelevant, which is pretty complicated because you want to stay relevant. You want to create job security for yourself. But what's the point? If you have a consultant that's been working for the same property for 3 years, I don't think is a good consultant because
Mm-hmm.
what are you fixing if you've been there for 3 years? So you really trying to you have to create you have to make yourself obsolete pretty much.
Hmm. You mentioned something about how the relationship starts at the phone call when they're calling to make a reservation. I mean, my obsession for the last 10 years has been like, how do we get to that point? Because
How
it's
do we
like
get the call?
because once we get the call, then we know they're probably going to buy something, right?
Yes.
Like we can't provide the experience unless they actually reach out to us and say, do you talk about reputation or like how to like? Do you
Yeah.
do like tableside scripting or anything like that?
I don't have that yet. I think I've been lucky enough and grateful and fortunate enough that the word of mouth has been the biggest asset that I had and the biggest ally. I think my career in the United States and what I've been able to do and the partnership that I have now, especially within my task force deployment services, I'm partnering with the right people, and therefore, when they hear that we're offering those kind of services, it just becomes part of the conversation. The network and the client base is already created from so many other aspects of what my company offers. Then when it comes to the point of, Franck, I need some help with this, I'm able to provide because I was ready for it, but I'm not necessarily hustling to find them. So I have yet to be in a place where I need to do cold calls, so I need to just kind of putting myself out there with scripted service in order to say, okay, I just had dinner into your restaurant last week. Let me tell you about what I experienced. Like
Mm.
I'm not there yet, and I'm gonna touching wood, and I'm
Yeah.
gonna just stay on that wave as long as I can.
Well, good. I mean, it sounds like a very small, kind of rarefied world. I'm guessing you know
Yes.
a lot of the people that occupy this world.
Hmm.
I was actually referring.
That keeps me busy enough, so I don't need to go further than that as of yet.
Well, that's good. I mean, it seems to be one like ultra high end and QSR
Yep.
fast casual seem to be the segments that are the safest
Hmm.
right now.
Yep.
I mean, people are either spending a lot of money on meals, or they're not spending much money on meals, and they're looking for like convenience.
That's correct.
What are your predictions for 2026?
2026, a few of them. I would say that we've already started technically. I think lean team that are better trained. I think the labor shortage in the industry, it's not going away. And anyone that tells you, so, oh, we short. I mean, I've been in industry for 26 years. It's been short for 26 years. Like we've been short staffed my entire career. Now I think the novelty will be that we're going to go into lean team, and the lean team will be better trained, so hiring consulting company that's going to help with SOPs and creating training manuals, playbooks in order to get them to that level. And the shift that's going to have to happen in the industry, which I think it's extremely needed, is especially in the world of luxury and the world of upscale restaurants, we've been pushing the staff to perform so well that the level of pressure and the level of adaptability they need to provide, I think it's becoming inadequate. I think the lean team right now, once you have someone in the lean team that call out because there's too much pressure or they need a day for mental rest, everybody else start to pick up the slack. And so lean team brings you a good exposure into providing a great execution because there's less people to manage. But when the culture is not in the forefront of what you're doing, and you don't take care of your staff the right way, and you're trying to push something that does not necessarily resonate, they're the one that will be failing. So culture is definitely a trend that I would highly encourage to put in the forefront of what you're trying to do. Take care of your employees, pay them well, and just trying to take care of them and understand what the needs are. And then the second part is I think we kind of moving away a little bit from the TikTok era. I think we've created a lot of gimmick restaurant that looks amazing with a filter on the phone, and when you get there you experience it, you feel good about it, but when you go back a second time it is a completely different experience most of the time because there's no foundation. There's a lack of foundation, there's a lack of leadership, there's been a shit ton of turnover that nobody is still there even though that was literally 3 months ago. So I think we kind of moving away from this and go back into the respect of the craft and the simplicity of the craft.
Um, I had a guest on a while back, and he's a good friend, Sean Finter, and he's got this program called Napkinomics, and it's very simple. It's like it fits on literally on a cocktail napkin, and everybody understands what the place does, what they don't do, who they do it
Right.
for, and exactly what they're empowered to do to create a positive guest experience. And then this reminds me of this. I think it's the Ritz Carlton story where he's like, everybody on the staff is empowered to spend $2,000 to turn somebody's
Yep.
day around. Do you guys? I mean, what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, when you come up in the industry in the hotel, this is usually something. It's one of the classic quotes that everyone talk about, the Ritz-Carlton way when they decided to do this. I don't think it's ever been really necessarily replicated well in most other brands. Um, I, I believe that when you train your staff well and when you're there for them daily and you care about them, their well-being, but not just for them to perform, I think you can get to a place when you give them the keys of the property in order for them to care for it, because they care for it. They care for it, and they're going to make the right call. So providing that empowerment to the staff, I think it's a brilliant idea. Now, I've never got the chance to work in a Ritz-Carlton to really experience it firsthand, but I definitely worked in some brands such as Auberge Resort Collection and St. Regis, when we had a level of empowerment and we're able to fix somewhat of the guest experience if it went sideways or it went under what they were expecting. So we would want in the industry to have a black and white answer. You know, there was this. It's like, oh, you have your toilet clogged. Okay, what do you have toilet clogged? Look at the list. I say, oh, you're getting a little chocolate. Okay, let me bring you a chocolate. Like, you would want to be so black and white, but you kind of missing out the entire element of hospitality, which is the human interaction, the level of empathy you're supposed to provide, the
Mm-hmm.
apologies, and then the recovery. And we came across generational issues where we were faced with, if the guest is complaining, you just don't know how to not take it personally. Well, I wasn't even here, I was off yesterday. And it's like, well, I'm just, you're an employee from here, I'm sharing my feedback about what happened on my experience. So we got to train better our team. We've got to train better. We got to train better our leadership to provide better training, and just making sure that this is a daily discipline and not necessarily a one time a year kind of thing.
Okay, what does that actually mean? Where does the rubber meet the road with actually delivering a great staff experience?
I
Is like,
think it comes down to being present. I think every leaders and every manager, they know that they have to be a healthy amount of time in office, a healthy amount of time in meetings, and a healthy amount of time on the operation. And I think it is for you to find that balance, but never finding it. You've got to strike that balance daily. There's going to be some days when the work's going to require for you to go on meetings a little bit more because it's the end of the month, you're reconciling your P&L, whatever the case is. But you just got to have to allocate the time. I've seen too many people that they staff properly, they have a supervisor on the floor, and then the manager, they say, okay, let me go in my office. It's just like, but it's the middle of service, it's the rush. Yeah, but they staffed. And it's like, okay, but are they being staffed doesn't equals are they excellent? Are they able to execute the right way? So we just we find ourselves trying to step away from the discomfort of the daily things and not necessarily seeing the opportunities of training the staff better. And I think we have a huge opportunity across the industry to be a little bit better every day and seeking out that level of discipline that you need to provide and level of training you need to provide daily to your staff. They don't know any better. It's not because you hired them, they're good, that they're certainly the best that they can be. They're also looking for that guidance.
yeah, I was talking to a client about this yesterday. It's shocking how common it is for people to say, "Here's your training manual. Can you work tomorrow?" you know, like no cultural indoctrination, no vision, no connection
The
between
why. The
where we
why
want to
is
be. Yeah.
yeah, the why is the element that is too often missed. Is like, okay, let me tell you why we're doing it this way. It's not because you've worked in those restaurants that you know what we're doing here. Therefore, this is what we're doing here. And the onboarding process has to be the most critical and important part of a hiring. Someone that comes from great houses and has done great job, that doesn't mean that he will excel in that environment. You've got to be able to provide him the level of training and onboarding so it stick with the rest. That's
Hmm.
that's the first 30 days are the most they're the most needed days when you have to spend time with your staff, checking on them periodically. And when I say periodically, it's not once a week. It's at least 3, 4 times a week when you just touch base with that individual that you just hire in
Hmm.
order to say, hey, how's everything? Is there anything that you need in order to be good at your job? Is there anything that you notice that I should be aware of? And then that's where you just keep a pulse on your operation and you know what's happening.
Hmm. Yeah, there's I mean, this is just kind of part of the nature of the industry where it's just like we sacrifice the important at the altar of the urgent, where we're like, we have to get this done right now. And so we do, like, this is where my obsession is. I was a fancy bartender for 100 years. I used to make 9 to 13 ingredient cocktails, 400 times a night. And it was all about a process and a system. And it's
Mhm.
like, and if you're unable to maintain even a basic system, and I like to use project management software for this, that just says like, this person has been here for 3 weeks. Have you done X, Y, and Z? And then just kind of formatting your days and blocking time to do those things and making that non-negotiable. I think that that's hopefully where people are going to be headed. But it's a very interesting business, and
It is.
sometimes I get a little pessimistic about it because I'm just like, Jesus, dude, like should this be saved?
I, I believe so. It needs to be saved. I think we are just right now. It feels that there is a level of leadership that is unequipped to understand the next generation. I think we're just unequipped, and we're living a world of impatience. But I'm 41 years old, so I'm a millennial, and I demanded that level of speed and efficiency. I asked for it, but now I'm judging and blaming the next generation because they are impatient. It's like it just doesn't make any sense to me. I asked for Amazon to deliver the same day I ordered. I asked for it. I asked for Netflix to be able to stream my season in one night instead of winning week after week after week. I asked for all of this. I'm the generation that requested it.
Right.
And now we
That's
have a
funny.
generation that comes after that, the Gen Z, that are trying to navigate their own world with that level of impatience, and they're being judged and they're being held accountable because of it. And it's just like, well, we've got to learn what we got to learn. And now we're entering the world with the Gen Alpha that's going to be full on AI because this is where they're headed. And it is our job to educate ourselves instead of just doing what my parents did with me when they did not understand what I was going through. And they were just diminishing and say, well, I never needed that when I grew up. Or I never needed that when I grew up. But the reality is, you have a job as a previous generation to humble yourself and bring the wisdom, but also to adapt to the current generation.
That's a really interesting and very thoughtful response to that. I mean, just like going back to the onboarding thing is like the things that I'm kind of obsessing about is like, how do we reinforce the same thing over and over again, multiple times, the same 5 important things to remember versus 100 things that somebody signs and it's a cover your ass document for legal purposes.
Yeah.
That's fascinating. Our kids Gen Alpha? I have a 7-year-old. And you've got
Yes, they are
5
Gen
and you got
Alpha.
5
Yeah.
and 2. Okay,
They
so
are Gen Alpha. Yeah.
okay. I'm convinced that my kid's never going to learn how to drive a car. Um, okay.
It is highly probable for sure. For sure.
Is there anything else that you'd like to share about Incrementum or your work that you feel like
I
everybody should
mean, the
know?
main thing I want to create is I just released my book, Relentless Growth, that came out in October this year. It's called Relentless Growth: Cultivating a Chef Mindset for Professional Fulfillment, and it's available on all platforms: Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Target, anything you can think of. You can also buy it through my website. My website will be the only time that you will be able to get a signed copy by the author, and happy to send it over from my house. And its website will be incrementumllc.net for my company, and cheffranck.com, where you can find my book and all about me and what I offer.
That's FRANCK. .com.
CK, that is correct.
I'll put all this stuff in the show notes. Thank you so much, Chef, for coming on. It's been
Thanks,
really
Jason.
interesting hearing you talk about your business, about your clients, and your optimism for the industry. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jason. Appreciate the time.
Thank you. All right.